Nerd reactor, roll out.
Hey, John.
Hey, James, how's it going?
Good. Not too bad.
Yeah, so the movie's coming out next week. Lots of praise from people about the movie. I know. How do you feel right now?
I'm actually just so physically exhausted. I've been traveling, literally, in the last 3 weeks, I've been to Beijing, to LA, to New York, to London, and then to Manila. And I literally just flew in from the Philippines, the very day of my premiere. And so, I got off the airport, went straight home, changed, and went straight to the premiere. And so I'm kind of tired, to be honest. That's how I feel. Nothing to do with how I feel about the actual movie about to come out, just how exhausted I've been promoting this film.
Oh, yeah. I can kind of guess the feeling of just trying to do all that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, do what I need to do now, and then, then when the film comes out, I can just sort of maybe sit back and just hopefully enjoy it. Hopefully.
Enjoy? Does that mean maybe taking a swim or being in a jacuzzi with water, or you want to be away from water?
No, just maybe kind of savor it in. And one of the things I like to do is is pay to go see the movie with just a normal crowd, or sneaking into screenings and just watching moments with audiences. That kind of stuff is always fun to do.
Oh yeah. So with Aquaman, with your big horror and your background in horror, were you tempted to try to add as much horror elements in Aquaman? I
didn't feel like I need to add a lot of horror elements into this, because it's not a horror movie. It has there's a sequence in it with the trench creatures where it has horror visuals, but it's not really designed to be a horror movie. No.
Yeah. And with, I guess, you did, movies like Conjuring and Fast and Furious, and then now Aquaman. How has the community been like? Do you see any difference in the people that go to watch these movies, with Aquaman, people embracing it?
Well, it's a pretty incredible, just the fact that, the horror community has huge fan base. The Fast and Furious films have huge fan base, and Aquaman obviously has a huge comic book fan base, and so it's been feels like all my career I've made movies in these with these big fan bases with a lot of expectations on these films, but I see that as a really positive thing. We can all be so lucky to have movies that have these built-in audiences that are ready to to see the film.
So with the built-in audience fan base, so for your next project, you want to do something away from that, or you're ready to tack on more of that stuff?
More which stuff?
In terms of just original projects or projects that have a built-in fan base?
It really doesn't matter. Pretty much, most of my horror films are based on original ideas and stuff like that, and it's just whatever excites me creatively.
Yeah. I know. You mentioned about let's say a Batman horror elements, but then I think you mentioned Batman's been done to death. But what if there's a Batman with Scarecrow? Would that excite you? Tackling that?
I'm trying not to think about other comic book characters right now. I'm just trying to survive this guy.
Yeah.
I just, I've spent 3 years working on Aquaman. I'm kind of comic booked out at this point, superhero now. So I do not want to think about another superhero character at this particular juncture.
Sounds fair. I know, some of the actors when they prepared for the role for Aquaman, they were learning how to swim. And with this movie, I don't think there's a lot of swimming needed, because you guys, use special effects. So what was that like?
Listen, it's they need to learn to swim per se, but they needed to learn to to work on those rig, those the rig and the harness that create the impression of swimming underwater. And they were not comfortable at all. They're not like the most pleasant thing to get into. And so so those actors have to train really hard. They have to, just get comfortable with these really, really awkward rigs to get into, and it was something that we needed to do to create the look of, to simulate the look of floating and swimming on the water. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you have any trouble or issues because the movie has so many locations, underwater locations, and even land locations, different continents and all that. So did you want to try to make things intimate, or were you gung ho about just having Aquaman just go everywhere?
Well, I mean, I feel like with a character like Aquaman who can pretty much swim anywhere, right? And 70% of the planet is covered in water. So I feel like literally the world is his oyster. The world is his playground. And you want to see all the really fun, weird, and wonderful places that he can kind of go visit. And that was really, part of the reason why I wanted it to be, the main story to be a quest story, a quest movie, so that we can, visit all these really weird and wonderful locations. And that was a big part, due to my desire to want to make a superhero movie that didn't really feel and play like a superhero movie, that it plays more like a classical action adventure fantasy journey movie.
Yeah. Well, which one would be your favorite place to film set wise?
Set wise, I would say in terms of practical locations, I really enjoy the Italy sequence, because we built the piazza. That was a huge set that we built in the back lot at the soundstage that we at the studio that we filmed at, and yeah, the Italian piazza and then all the rooftops and all that was a really cool set to build. We scouted Sicily, and then we found a town that we really love, and we pretty much basically recreated that town on the back lot, basically. And the other set that I really love as well is the galleon set. That galleon set, the sunken galleon where they swim up to meet Volko. That was a really cool one. That was a really big set as well. To build this old decrepit old galleon that's been sitting under the water for hundreds and hundreds of years was a really fun one to create.
Mm. And I want to mention, I do like the prologue sequence, and then some of the scenes in the Italy stuff where it just kind of feels like a fairy tale. So I was wondering if you had just reached into your favorite fairy tale to bring it to the screen.
Yeah, I guess, the prologue plays somewhat like a fairy tale, and a lot of that has to do with, again, I took inspiration from the comic book, and I took inspiration from sort of maritime story, and the opening really is that classic story of, the sailor who falls in love with a mermaid, right, that he finds, and that's what the opening, and so I really wanted the opening to have a dreamy quality about it, and I felt like, I felt like that was I didn't want to have a very long prologue because, I don't want to, the movie, is already long enough as it is that I don't want to kind of extend it anymore with a longer prologue. And so the way to do that was to sort of condense it in a way and sort of find a filmmaking way to sort of, condense it and tighten it up, but do it in a dreamy way that conveys what it was that I was going for, which is, mom and dad meet, two really unlikely characters meet, fall in love, and through their love, we're given our hero of the film.
Nice. And then last question for me. I didn't know this, but apparently Julie Andrew was the voice.
That's right.
Featured in the movie. So yeah. So how did that come about?
Well, I've been saying that when I was designing this Karathan giant sea creature that I wanted the most powerful creature on Earth to be female, and then for some reason I wanted her to be British. I wanted the character to have a British accent, and so you look at your list of your list of dames. So you have your Dame Helen Mirren, your Dame Judi Dench, and then your Dame Julie Andrews, and we would reach out to Julie, and she was very excited to come play with us on this.